Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanaya. Shuklambaradaram Vitnam Sachivannam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvavighnopashantaye Ananta Samsara Samudratara Naukaidabyam Guru Bhaktidabyam Vairagya Samrajyada Pujanabhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kabishamakshaghantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Govindaya Namo Namaha. Yadangripankerugharenu lagnam Nibiyaniram Vimalantarangaga Janami Tattvam Nijamatmarupam Tam Navami Narayana Tirthamaryam Narayana Tirthamaryam. Namaskaram. Welcome to the 39th session of Krishna Leela Tarangini. We concluded the 38th session with a pasuram from Andal and another one from Thiruvaiyaru of Nammalvar. Narayana Bhattadri observed in Slokam 7 of Dasakam 63 what may have been going in the mind of the hearty Indra. Ahaha darshtyam amushya vatorgirim vyadita bahu rasa vavaropayet iti haristvayi baddha vigarhano divasa saptakam ugrama varshayat. This cowherd boy's impudence, darshtyam, is indeed surprising. Let me see how long this little fellow can stand like that, especially holding this huge mountain. No doubt he is going to feel fatigued and he will end up putting it down when his hands get really exhausted. Look at these stupid Yadavas, cowherds, surrounding this boy. They are disrespectful of me. They will then experience the consequence. Anyhow, I will rest content only after teaching a very good lesson to this group of cowherds who had listened to this impudent boy's words. Indra belittled you this way and caused a heavy rainfall for 7 days and nights without a break. Well, the arrogant Indra should have realized Bhagavan's power at least when he, with his tender hands, uprooted the mountain and held it aloft on his one hand, which could never have been accomplished by any ordinary person. It only shows how much of arrogance and contempt Indra had towards Krishna. Today we will be enjoying one of the rarest works of Nigamanta Deshika I have already mentioned to you about this rare work known as Yadavabhyudaya and the remarkable treatment of GovardhanOddharanam episode. Before we go into Yadavabhyudaya, we will have a couple of pasarams from Nammalvar and a song from Venkatakavi about this very episode of GovardhanOddharanam, as we talked about in the last session.
அப்பன் தீமழை காத்து குன்றமெடுத்தான் குன்றமெடுத்த பிரான் அடியாருடன் ஒன்றி நின்ற சடகோபனுரை நன்றி புனைந்த ஓராயிரத்துள் இவை வென்றி தரும் பத்தும் மேவி கற்பார்க்கே இவை வென்றி தரும் பத்தும் மேவி கற்பார்க்கே
Nammalvar said, மெய் நிறை கீழ்ப்புக மாபொருள சுனைவாய் நிறை நீர்பிடிரிச் சொரிய இன ஆனிரை பாடியங்கே உடுங்க அப்பன் தீமழை காத்து குன்றமெடுத்தானே. Herds of grazing cows and all animals couched for shelter, the great tanks overflowed with gurgling waters. The entire cowherd clan found a shelter when my father, Appan Thimazhai Kaathu Kundramedithane, when my father lifted a mountain to protect the cowherds and stop the destructive rains. In the next pasaram, he says, Kundrameditha Piran Adiyarodum ஒன்றினின்ற சடகோபனுரை செயல் நன்றி புனைந்த ஓராயிரத்துள் இவை வென்றி தரும் பத்தும் மேவிக்கற்பார்க்கே. The decade of the 1,000 songs sung by the grateful Shatakopa, who stood with the devotees of the Lord, who lifted a mountain. Reciting it with love bestows success. We will now listen to Oothukadu Venkatakavi's very rare song, maybe one of the very few, if not the only one, which has been done exclusively for GovardhanOddharanam.
Agama Raja Gopala Agama Raja Gopala Akilanda Paripala Ananda Leela Akilanda Paripala Ananda Leela Agama Raja Gopala Akilanda Paripala Ananda Leela Agama Raja Gopala Yogindra Krit Ayana Bhoginuta Charana Yogindra Krit Ayana Bhoginuta Charana Nagendra Panichayana GovardhanOddharanam Nagendra Panichayana GovardhanOddharanam Nagendra Panichayana GovardhanOddharanam Agamam Raja Gopala Akilanda Paripala Ananda Leela Agamam Raja Gopala Majjana Mavagam Manmata Malmata Majjana Mavagam Manmata Malmata लज्जितलोचनं नन्द नन्दन लज्जितलोचनं नन्द नन्दन कज्जल रूषित शशिकलकैव मुख कालिंग पणनटन कृष्ण कृष्ण कालिंग पणनटन कृष्ण 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 आगम राजगोपाल अखिलांड परिपाल आनंद लीला राजगोपाल
Venkata Kavi says, Agama Rajagopala, Akilanda Paripala, Ananda Leela. The princely cowherd is the embodiment of Vedas, the protector of the entire cosmos with all the planets and millions of universes. The cowherd's Leelas provide ultimate enjoyment for everyone around and all of us. Of course, the rest of the song is Nama Sankirtanam. Yogendra Ayana Bhoginuta Charanan Agendra Panishayana GovardhanOddharanam. He says, he who adorns the hearts of eminent yogis, O Seshasai, Govardhana Uddhara, all these are the routine adjectives and Nama Sankirtanam by Venkata Kavi on the great Lord Krishna. Before we proceed with the opera, slokas 133 and 134, where Tirtha explains the state of the crestfallen Indra, let us enjoy at least a few slokams of Sri Nigamanta Desika's masterpiece, Yadava Vidya, as I mentioned in the last session. Chapter 6 of the magnificent work known as Chitra Sarga is worth pondering because it abounds in Chitra slokas. The slokas with alliteration containing one or more syllables repeated are made into Chitra Bandhas. The context is Krishna advises Nanda and other Gopas to worship Govardhana and ignore Indra.
विदितवानिव विज्ञापयाम्यः विदितवानिव विज्ञापयाम्यः शृणुत मे शकुनेरिव भाषितम् विदितवानिव विज्ञापयाम्यः शृणुत मे शकुनेरिव भाषितम् प्रातुक बुद्धिरगो प्रातुचेतसः प्रभवतो भवतो नयि शिक्षये विदितवानिव विज्ञापयाम्यः शृणुत मे शकुनेरिव भाषितम् प्रातुक बुद्धिरगं प्रातुचेतस प्रभवतो भवतो नगि शिक्षये निगमदृष्टमिदं निखिलेन वा काचन विश्वतनौ पुरुषे स्थिते यैगमाम् उपजीवति तत्तनुं सहितया हितया भुवि नातवान् अतियजेत निजं यदि देवतम् उभयतश्चवते सुषदेभ्यगं क्षितिभृतैव सदैव तकावयं वनवता नवत किमहिदृगा
Desika says, Viditavaniva Vijñapayamyaha. Srunutame Shakuni Reva Bhashitam. Pratuka Buddhiraham Pratuchetasaha Prabhavato Bhavato Nahi Sikshaye. This is where Deshika makes Krishna speak like a very humble boy, already hesitant towards his elders. And he didn't know whether to say this or not, but he was already decided that he should talk to Nanda and others about his opinion. So Krishna says through this verse, I speak as though I know everything, but please hear my words as though it is from a parent, because I may be only repeating from wherever I heard or wherever I had known from. Shakuni here means birds in general, but this is specifically mentioned to be, I'm doing a parrot talk. I am with meager intellect and I cannot advise great wise men like you, Father. So Krishna is addressing to Nanda and others. What is meant here is, by the word parrot, is that he is not telling something new, but only what has been taught to him by his elders already, because they are all already there as an Nigama Antasaram. In the next verse, Krishna says, Nigama Drishtamidam Nikile Navahak Kachana Vishwatano Purushe Stite Yayaham Yam Upajivati Tattanum Sahitaya Hitaya Bhuvi Natavan. You've all already learned this through the Vedas. So why should I say this? But still I am reminding you of this. Ati Yajeta Nijam Yadi Devatam Ubayatas Chavate Jushate Bhyagam Shiti Brutaiva Sadaiva Takavayam Vanavata Anavata Kimahidruha. If one leaves his own God and worships yet another, he is abandoned by both the God he used to worship, and now he is suddenly worshipping new, and therefore incurs only a sin. All creations such as these mountains are the manifestations of Sri Hari, the Brahman. And the Govardhana is the very reason for timely rains for Gokulam, and also provides grass and all other vegetation for people and the cattle, and thus not Indra. So if you leave Govardhana and just go after Indra, you are neither doing good to the God that you have to worship, nor the God that you have chosen to worship now. The very name of the mountain as Govardhana shows that only through it alone cattle flourish. Govardhana.
Bahumato manuja dadate dhrutim. Bahumato manuja. Bahumato manuja dadate dhrutim bahumato yam ananya dhrutisrutayam. Girishato natimanadiko Girishato natimanadiko yaso Girishato shakruto abhimayi brutaga Bahumato manuja dadate dhrutim Bahumato yam ananya dhrutis satam Girishato natimanadiko yaso Girishato shakruto bhimagi brutaga Dishana tita dishana Dishana tita dishana lokanityatu Lokanityatu lokani Sudhare yesmin Vasudare Tagata Tejasvita Tate Tejasvita Tate.
We listened to Sloka 2, 3 and 4. Now we'll jump to Sloka 14. Bahumato manuja dadate dhrutim bahumatoyam ananya dhrutihi satam girishatonnati manadiko hyaso Girisatosha Krutopi Mahi Brutaha. This sloka contains Yamaka Chatushtayam, 2 words in the Purvarda or the first half, and 2 words in Uttararda, second half repeated. One of the 4 major alankaras, Yamaka, refers to the well-known device of repeating words similar in sound but different in sense. Here, of course, in context, it's duplicate, extremely similar. And this particular alankara has been elaborately mentioned in the Naishadha Charitra. Sriharsha's Naishadha Charitra is known to be one of the 5 Mahakavyas or great epic poems. The slokam that we just now saw above means that this mountain gives joy to all and extolled by the good as the best. It is even more praiseworthy than even the Himalayas, which gives joy to Girisha, being greater than hundreds of hills. Actually, there is a pun on the word Girishataha, as of Girisha, as well as 100 hills. Girishataha can be Girishataha or Girishataha. One is that of Girisha, namely Great Lord Shiva, and the other is 100 hills. So Krishna said this mountain should be worshipped as Lord Narayana himself. Krishna reassures Nanda that if an Indra gets angry on his puja being stopped and attacked, Balarama will conquer him with his plow as his weapon. This mountain, says Krishna, is the Gotra, protector of the cattle, and is close to us all, whereas Indra is Gotra Bedu, destroyer of mountains, and is far away. Krishna praises Nanda as being wiser than Brihaspati and asks him to contemplate on this matter. The sloka is rich with alliteration. Dishanatita means wiser than Brihaspati. Dishana is Brihaspati. The second Dishana means Buddhi. So the same word used twice. First time it refers to Brihaspati, the Kulaguru of Devas, and the second is Dishana, meaning Buddhi. The word Lokaniya means Lokaniti, and Lokani denote perception. The mountains are called Vasudhara, support of the earth, while Sudhara means the best land, meaning the mountain. After this, there are many Chitra slokas with various Bandha Chitras, the letters of which are portrayed in a pattern to form Gomutrika Bandha. All of them extolling the glory of Govardhana. The skillful construction of words is found in many slokas, and let us focus in a few slokas. In fact, there is a niyati called Ekakriyan with a sloka vrittihi. The same sloka split up differently gives different meaning. Purely the split of the words makes the entirely different meaning, or a meaning which is different from the first connotation. For instance, in Sloka 77 in chapter 6 of Yadava Bidaya, Abranta Mati Sayyeha Virajita Tamagame Nisamayalina Ghanam Salaugam Ati Nandanam. But when you split the same sloka differently, it can give us a different meaning. Abranta Mati Sayyeha Viraji Tatamagame Nishamayalina Ganam Saraugamati Nandanam. So the verb is Nishamaya. So when you try to split up as Abrantam Adishayya Iha Virajita Tamagame Ali Naganam Atinandanam Salaugam Nishamaya, it gives the meaning, see the group of sala trees which are extending beyond the sky, and in them the clouds are hanging. But in the second way, when you split, Tatama Shayya Iha Viraji Agame Alina Ganam Atinandanam Salaugam Nishamaya. O prosperous one, In this mountain where the birds rest, see the waterfalls delightful with the groups of bees hovering around the trees. Look at the same slokam with slight rearrangement of words, how the meaning is completely different. Desika actually used a lot of special usages and grammar here in chapter 6. As I said, Chitra slokas. And in sloka 78, we see the exquisite usage of Dvayakshara slokas. In fact, there are two aksharas used in some kind of a sequence which may apparently look to be meaningless, but it is pregnant with meaning. Charu chiri, rucharochi, rurucharai, racharcharaha. Chiro charochihi, acharo, ruchiro, ruchiracharaha. The two alphabets are adantya, not belonging to those of dental class. Charu, chiri, rucha. By the luster of birds named Gillika, which are lovely. That is what it connotes, charu, chiri, rucha. Rochi means shining, and rurucharaihi by wanderings of Krishna Saramriga. Acharcharuhu means without the fear of cruel animals. Churo charochihi, always having bright luster of gems. Acharaha is mountain. Ruchiraha is beautiful. Ruchiracharaha is illuminating trees. So the description is so meaningful when you really put the padams in proper order and try to go deeper rather than simply seeing that it's only a blabbering with two syllables being rearranged. There's so much Vishayam there in Sanskrit language. There are other slokas with only dental alphabets. So the one which we just now saw is Adantya, not belonging to those of dental class. But the slokas 79 to 92 in chapter 6, they belong to the category known as the dental alphabets. But there are also slokas with the same akshara in each pada as well as padas, such as in sloka 95 in chapter 6. Let us see that sloka. Ruru, ruru, riraroram, dudadi, dadadadi daha, lali, lo lali, li lalo, ha ha, hu ha, he ha hi. The meaning is, oh, the destroyer of those who give sorrow to others, whose splendid deeds cannot sufficiently be sung even by the famous celestial singers. This mountain is full of the noise of wild animals like the deer. It has abundance of waters. This supplies full enjoyment to the seekers of enjoyment. This provides support to the unsteady bees which move about being desirous of flower honey. So the Alankara Vishesham here is called Pratipada Mishraika Ekaksharaha. Pratipada Mishra Ekaksharaha. Ekakshara slokas are also pretty unique, which Deshika uses so casually. Only one alphabet is used throughout in a sloka. It may sound a little bit funny, but let's listen to that. Nana, 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 na, 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 nana, nana, na, na, na. This is first padam. Second padam is na, 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 na. Can this convey any meaning? Yes. Let us look at the way the slokam has to be split or can be split and recited. It should be split this way. Na, 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 ana, na, na, ana, ana, anana, na, 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 ha, na, a, aha, na, aha, na, na, nana, nana, anana, nana, nana, na, aha, na, na. This is how it should be split. The one which I said it uniformly like one syllable, it should be split this way. In fact, in all fairness, you should remember I'm giving only the Vyakyanam from Appaya Dikshita and other later scholars who gave some interpretations of these. Appaya Dikshita, the Advaita Chakravarti, wrote commentary for Vishishtadvaita Chakravarti Vedanta Deshika's Yadavabhyudaya. The greatest work of Yadavabhyudaya had the commentary from the great Advaita Chakravarti Appaya Dikshita. And that is the one which all the scholars from that time are relying on for interpretation of Yadavabhyudaya. The summary of this particular sloka is, O Father, great Vishnu, by whom those who live by the 5 vital airs and others who live without them exist. That is, men and gods, they cannot be protectors. God Vishnu is the only single protector, and he is the only one who is single and not many. Everything is Mahavishnu only. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Many is many, single is single. One cannot become the other. It's logical. One is opposed to many. But here Vishnu is many and Vishnu is single. Without the word Sri Vishnu cannot be seen as many, since he is all pervading. The protector is single, thereby Sri Vishnu alone is the protector and none other. As it is said, Nahi Palana Samarthya Rute Sarveshwaram Harim. In Vishnu Purana, in the very first canto, the 11th chapter, the sloka 19 says, Nahi Palana Samarthya Rute Sarveshwaram Harim. This is the place where it is describing Markandeya Charitam. So I already mentioned to you about Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, and that quote is from Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma Tajjalan iti Shanta Upasita. Atakkalu Kritumayaha Purusho Yata Krituhu Asmil Loke Purusho Bhavati Tatedaha Pretya Bhavati Sakartam Kurvita. In Chandogya, this is the Tritiya Adhyaya Chaturdasha Kanda. All this is Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. From it the universe comes forth, in it the universe merges, and in it the universe breathes, and therefore a man should meditate only on Brahman with a calm mind for realizing who he is and getting unto Paramatman. Now verily, a man consists of will. As he wills in this world, so does he become when he has departed hence. Let him with this knowledge in mind form his will and meditate. Tajjalanidhi Shanta Upasita. Atakkalu Kritumayaha Purusho Yata Krituhu Asmil Loke Purusho Bhavati Tatedaha Pretya Bhavati Sakartum Kurvita. Reverting to Yadavabhyudaya in the words of Deshika, Bhagavan Krishna says in Sloka 97, Iti Tattvam Atattvam Cha Yata Vadava Gadaya Archyanarchyo Diya Bindan Godhananyava Gadaya. O my venerable father, this way with the mind well determined as to the reality and the unreality and discriminating, which is to be worshipped, from which is not to be worshipped, save our wealth, namely the cattle. In other words, the thing to be worshipped now is Govardhana. And something which you don't have to worship, you need not have to do that, is Indra. So try to understand the discrimination here. Tattvam atatvam cha yata vadava gadaya archya anarchyo diya bindan godhanyeva gadaya. Let us save our wealth. There are two more interesting Ekakshara slokas, 98 and 99. The first one goes like this, but can be split in two ways. Naya naya, naya naya naya, naya naya, naya, naya naya naya, naya 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 naya. In other words, first time the first pada is 2 plus 3 plus 3. The second pada is 1 plus 3 plus 4. The same na ya, two aksharas. The meaning in this, the way it has been described now, if we have to go to the meaning of the first version is, O Father, you, without taking to injustice and without looking out for the advice of any other, with the mind going by itself in the path of those who resort to Bhagavan Vishnu, which is choose the path which is just and auspicious and give up or expel what is unjust and inauspicious. In other words, choose the path, namely pray to Govardhana, and discard the path, namely not pray to Indra. If one were to reverse the sloka order, the same sloka, the pratiloma will make it different like this. Yana yana, yana yana, yana yana, yana yana. 4 times yana yana. The second pada of the same sloka will be ya, naya naya naya, na yana yana ya, na ya na. For want of time, I simply summarize the meanings. Actual Padaprayaga and word by word meaning will be a remarkable brain teaser. Let me give you the simplified summary meaning for this sloka. You walk on the high road on which vehicles like chariots freely move. That means the royal path, not going in the wrong path. You, addicted to good conduct, getting rid of sins leading to decay. O Nanda, in other words, O Tata, father, with a mind which cannot be said to be incapable of knowing justice and injustice, and is free from the evils like passion, etc., please follow the just and auspicious path, giving up the unjust and inauspicious one. This is almost like Upadesham to the father. The last type of sloka in Yadava Abhyudaya is called Sarvato Bhadra. One of the 21 meanings is square enclosing the circle. Sarvato Bhadra means square enclosing the circle. It is one of the 21 meanings for that particular coinage. And this particular usage of square enclosing the circle is from Vastu Sastra, which goes like this. This sloka goes like this. Sloka 99. Maya Bhasa Sabhayama Ya Sutaya Yata Suya Bhata Yaya Yaya Thaba Sa Yaya Ge Geya Yasa. It may sound funny, but the meaning is, O Father, Krishna addresses to Nanda, your intellect is marvelous and with imaginative power. And it is very broad also. You are not narrow-minded. It's the cause for attainment of wealth as well. Wealth of different kinds. It is devoid of jealousy. It shines with inclination towards good fortune to you. And it is directed towards Mahavishnu alone, which I know. If with such mind you try to worship this mountain, that mind will be praised and sung by all for its greatness. After Krishna gave such remarkable speech in the words of one of the greatest scholars in Sanskrit and scriptures that ever lived in Kali Yuga, Swami Deshika. Of course, Deshika was also known as Sarvatantra Swatantra and Ekasanta Grahi. Sarvatantra Swatantra means master of all arts, crafts, and artifacts. Ekasanta Grahi is one in an evolved state capable of perception, grasp, and application, even the finer niceties, out of complex and critical information available in the very first attempt. These two special honors have been conferred on Vedanta Desika because during his time, he was someone who was matchless. Anyway, they have a phenomenal capability to integrate memory and intelligence. Desika gave the final verse in Chitra Sarga, which we'll just now listen. Aklishta Chitram idamatra managiva uktam chitrayutani suvachani manastatapi. Let's listen to this sloka.
Aklishta Chitram idamatra managiva Aklishta Chitram idamatra Aklishta Chitram idamadra managiva uktam Chitrayutani suvachani punastatapi कृत्यं विभागानिगमनीयम् कृत्यं विभागानिगमनीयम् अनन्यभक्तैः आराध्यतां हरिरसौ पृथिवीधरात्मा आराध्यतां हरिरसौ पृथिवीधरात्मा.
There are so many wonders or chitram in this mountain. Only a little has been said, and there are more than 10,000 yet to be seen. But the main purpose is to do the worship of Bhagavan Hari in the form of the mountain with unswerving devotion, giving up all other thoughts. That's the summary meaning. By this sloka, Desika hints that he is capable of writing much more chitra slokas than what is given here in this chapter. But since the main purpose of the work is to describe the glory of Bhagavan Hari, he has narrated only a few. At this moment, the aged Gopas and Gopis saw a male form in the mountain which looked like the Lord himself, a split image of Krishna. And Nanda too, seeing it, thought that all their prayers have been properly answered. Conscious of avoiding repetition of identical sentiments, I would like to present only one sloka from Sukha when he convinced the Gopas that Indra should be ignored and the greatest of mountains, Govardhana, and the environment that it protected should be properly worshipped. This is a message for our current times of greedy and indiscriminate behavior of majority of human beings around the globe. How environment is so powerfully important. Sukha responds to King Parikshit on this question of mountain and environment in the following terms. And let's just listen to the sloka 37 of chapter 24 in the Samaskandam.
Yesho avajanato martyan kamarupi vanaukasaga kamarupi vanaukasaga hanti yasmai namasyamaha hanti yasmai namasyamaha sarmane atmano gava atmano gavam atmano gavam. रक्षिते गोकुलजने हरिणा गिरिधारिणा लज्जा भरानत शिराः लज्जा भरात भरानत शिराः सुरराजो लज्जा भरानत शिराः लज्जा भरानत शिराः सुरराजो अभवत् तदा सुरराजो अभवत् तदा निवृत्ते मेघा संगाते निवृत्ते मेघा स्वस्थे गोकुलवासिनी निवृत्ते मेघा संगाते निवृत्ते मेघा संगाते स्वस्ते गोकुलवासिनी स्थापिते च गिरौ कृष्णम् स्थापिते च गिरौ कृष्णम् इन्द्रस्तौतीति सादरम्
This Govardhana hill, assuming any form he wishes, Kamarupi, will kill any residents of the forest who defecate on it, denigrate the mountain, or attempts to destroy or neglect the mountain. These are the words of Sukha to Parikshit. Therefore, let us pay our obeisance to this great mountain Govardhana for the safety of ourselves and our cows and progeny to come. Kamarupi indicates that the form of Govardhana can also manifest to proliferate as poisonous snakes, destructive wild animals, falling rocks, and so on. Because if somebody really attempts to denigrate, defecate, or attempt to destroy the mountain, mountain knows how to retaliate in the form of poisonous snakes, destructive wild animals, falling rocks, landslide, etc., so that the humans which really make the mess will face the consequences of when the nature gets wild and angry. That's very clearly described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Thereby, all of the utpadam that the mountain can cause or shoot to kill or even annihilate the mankind. According to the great Acharyas, Krishna presented 6 essential points or advice in the chapter 24 of Sukha Bhagavatam. That karma alone is sufficient to determine one's destiny, that one's conditioned nature is in fact the supreme controller, that the modes of nature are in themselves the supreme controller, and the fourth is that the Supreme Lord is in fact dependent aspect of karma. The next one is that he is under the control of karma, subject to exceptions. And finally, the 6th point is that one's occupation is the actual worshipable deity. In this case, the mountain and the mother nature. Krishna presented these arguments also because he wanted to stop the impending sacrifice to Indra and divert it to Govardhana hill, and also make this yet another Gita Vakyam for the mankind to come in the following yugas, that how important is mankind's responsibility to protect the mountains and not denigrate them. In this way, Bhagavan wanted to send the message not only to Indra, to all of us. In the next chapter, chapter 25 of Srimad Bhagavatam Dasamaskandam, Sukha explains the rage and stupidity of Indra to have unleashed a destructive storm and rains when Krishna saved his cows and devotees of Gokulam by lifting the mountain. Krishna, forgetting hunger and thirst and putting aside all considerations of personal pleasure, stood there holding up the hill for 7 days as the people of Raja gazed upon him. When Indra observed this exhibition of Bhagavan's mystic power, he became most astonished first. Pulled down from his platform of false pride and his intentions thwarted, Indra ordered his clouds to desist and stop all the torrential rains. Krishna puts the hill down after that, where it used to be. The cowherds came out of their hidings and cow caves with their respective cows to enjoy the pleasant environment again outside of the mountain. Sukha says in the final sloka, namely sloka 33 of chapter 25, that surrounded by his loving cowherd boyfriends and Lord Balarama, Krishna then went off to the place where he had been tending his cows originally. The cowherd girls returned to their homes, singing joyfully about the lifting of Govardhana hill and other glorious deeds performed by Lord Krishna, who had so deeply touched their hearts. The next chapter 26 of Sukha Bhagavatam with 25 slokams are all about how Krishna was praised and admired by the entire Gopa clan. The 28 slokas of chapter 27 from Sukha, they are all about Indra's Sharanagati to Krishna. Indra, crestfallen, and how Krishna restores him to his position, admonishing him, however. He tells Indra to serve the citizens with diligence and utter humility, because that is a post he is occupying with the grace of the Lord, and he should not feel that he is entitled to it. Indra, along with the celestial cow Surabhi or Kamadhenu, then performs Abhisheka or Samprakshana for Krishna, using the water of the heavenly Ganges and the milk of Mother Surabhi or Kamadhenu. And that Pattabhisheka is called Govinda Pattabhisheka. Indra and Kamadhenu took this opportunity to bestow upon Krishna the name Govinda at that moment, and the Devas showered flowers and recited various prayers at the anointing of Govinda. We will come to all of those after we see how Narana Tirtha explains them all. We will listen to slokams 133 and 134, followed by the benediction slokam Sri Gopala Kripanide in Thodi, which is sloka 135, and finally the song Geetam 48, Mamaka Aparada Shata Kshamyatam Tvaya. We will see more on Indra's Sharanagati from all other Acharyas and also the fine episode of Govinda Pattabhishekam next week.
Shri Gopala Kripanide Karunaya Swaminmaya Nuttitam Chantavyam Bhavata Parada Shatakam Padyakshane Tattada Adityadi Samatta Devani Yasya Jnaya Vartate Adityadi Samatta Devani Yasya Jnaya Vartate Sattvam Sattvada Pungavaga Shruti Shirovat Gopika Vallabhaga Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Tvaya Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Tvaya Krishna Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Tvaya Krishna Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Tvaya Krishna Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Mamaka Aparadeshatam Maganayatavayutam Mamaka Aparadeshatam Maganayatavayutam Mamaka Aparadeshatam Maganayatavayutam Shamavarna Samanvita Shashwata Nanda Sanghoga Shamavarna Samanvita Shashwata Nanda Sanghoga Mamaka Aparadeshata Shamyatam Tvaya Atyanta Kripa Sagara Adipuru Shanadara Nityada Jagadadara Niganuta Shura Shityanta ವನ ಸಂಚಾರ ಶೋಭನ ಫಲದಾಚಾರ ಭೃತ್ಯದಯ ಧೃತಕಾರ ಭ್ರಮರ ಕಾರಣವಿದಾರ ಭೃತ್ಯದಯ ಧೃತಕಾರ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಕಾರಣ ತೀದಾರ ಮಾಮಕ ಅಪರಾಧ ಶತ ಕ್ಷಮ್ಯತಾ ವಯ ಕಾಮಶತ ಕೋಟಿ ವೇಷ ಖಂಡಿತ ನಿಖಿಲ ಘೋಷ ದಾಮೋದರ ದಾರಭಾಷ ದಾಸಪೋಷ ಕಮಲಾಕೃತ ಅಭಿಲಾಷ ಕಮನ ಕಲಿತ ಶೇಷ ಸಾಮಗೀತ ಕೃತ ಶೇಷ ಸಾಧುಗಣ ಸಂತೋಷ ಮಾಮಕ ಅಪರಾಗ ಶತ ಕ್ಷಮ್ಯತಾ ತ್ವಯ ಆದಿತ್ರ ಚಂದ್ರಮಂಡಲ ಅಭ್ಯಂತರಾಧಾರ ನಿರ್ಮಲ ಬೋಧರೂಪಾನಂದ ಜಲ ಪೋಷಿತಾಖಿಲ ವೇದ ಪುರಾಣಾದಿಮೂಲ ವೇಣುಗಾನ ಕ್ರೀಡಾಲೋಲ ವೇದ ಪುರಾಣಾದಿಮೂಲ ವೇಣುಗಾನ ಕ್ರೀಡಾಲೋಲ ಸುಂದರತರ ಗೋಕುಲ ಶ್ರೀಧರನಾಥ ಗೋಪಾಲ ಸುಂದರ ತರ ಗೋಕುಲ ಶ್ರೀಧರನಾಥ ಗೋಪಾಲ ಮಾಮಕ ಅಪರಾಗ ಶತ ಕ್ಷಮ್ಯತಾ ತ್ವಯ ದಾರಾದರಕಾರ ಧೀರ ಗೋರಾರಿ ಸಂಹಾರ ಶೂರ ನೀರಜನಾವ ನಿರೂಪಮ ನಿರ್ಮಲಾನಂದ ಪಾರಾವಾರ ಶಿವಿಹಾರ ಪಾಪತಿಮಿರ ಭಾಸ್ಕರ ನಾರಾಯಣ ತೀರ್ಥ ಸಂತಾರ ನಾನಗಮಾಂತ ಸಂಚಾರ ಮಾಮಗ ಅಪರಾಧ ಶತ ಕ್ಷಮ್ಯತಾ ಮಯ ಮಾಮಕ ಅಪರಾಧ ಶತ ಕ್ಷಮ್ಯತಾ ವಯ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣ
ನಾರಾಯಣ 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 ಹರೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಗುರುವಾಯೂರಪ್ಪ ನಾರಾಯಣ